Hi, friends. Good evening. Am I audible? Good evening, XLRI. Am I audible? Good evening, Natji. Hi, Jadev. Am I audible, friends? Hi, Ritika, Vikas, Ritvik, Dhara, Subham, Harsh, Saptarshi. I'll just wait for 20 seconds, then we will get into our discussion. I hope that's fine. Hi, Dharmander. Thank you for that confirmation. Yeah. So I was expecting roughly around 90 students. That's what I was given to understand. But nevertheless, genuinely appreciate all of you for taking out time on a Saturday evening. Thank you so very much for that. I hope all of you are really doing good and are safe. Again, welcome back to Dr.HR live stream. It's 5:05 now, and the plan is for the next 40 minutes or so, I'll try and share my experiences around what is that key learning that I have taken from each of the sector, each of the company I have worked so far in my career, and during this unprecedented times, what are some of the tips and tricks to stay ahead? Yeah, that will be precisely the theme for today's discussion, friends, followed with last 15 minutes Q&A. Thankfully, live chat is open, and feel free to ask me any question related to the theme or anything outside the theme if you believe Anil is going to help you out in terms of addressing your curious query. Yeah, with that understanding, let's go ahead and start our session. The format that I really want to follow today is I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you can respond back in the live chat session, and basis that we would move ahead with our discussion. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So now you guys are operating from your respective hometowns, or you guys are back in your campus? Saptarshi, Shubham. Great. So, guys, as I said, let me very quickly take you through who I am in terms of my profile, in terms of the kind of organization that I have worked so far. And in the process, I'll also try and help you out in terms of sharing what has been my key learning in those companies. Good to know that, Harsh, you're back in your campus. My full name is Anil Kumar Misra, Misra. I'm a Misra from Orissa, not very far from your campus, Harsh. Passed out in 93 to 95. A course called, Industrial Relation and Personnel Management, managing people at work, dealing with trade unions, employee welfare, human resource development, organization design, learning and development, social work. These were some of the themes that we were taught. My first assignment, corporate assignment, was with a company called Haryana Telecom in the outskirts of Delhi, in a place called Rohtak. Yeah, they were into manufacturing of insulated cables. The next assignment was with a company called Denso Haryana. This time also, again, this is in Haryana, but this is a Japanese MNC in the outskirts of Gurgaon called Manesar. So friends, typically in any of the manufacturing sector, if you genuinely want to understand manufacturing practices like TPM, Kanban, Kaizen, quality circles, for all those manufacturing practices, or 5S, for all those manufacturing practices, there cannot be a better sector than manufacturing, and that too working for a Japanese organization. Yeah, that was my key takeaway working for Denso. Yeah, and also, dealing with trade unions, it has its own charm. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, today we do not have lot many trade union movement, but dealing with trade unions, multiple trade unions, dealing with them, understanding what makes them happy, understanding how to strike a balance between expectation of both employer and employee, that was phenomenal. That was a great learning working for manufacturing sector. Then I moved to a sector, hospitality, and this time with Oberoi Group of Hotels and Resorts. My first assignment was with Trident Hilton in Chennai, and the next assignment was with the Oberoi Rajvilas in Jaipur. So friends, even till today, if you talk about world's top 5 hotel, I'm talking about world's top 5 hotel, Oberoi Rajvilas features amongst one of them. And this is as per Condé Nast. Yeah. And my role as head of HR for that property was to drive overall strategic HR agenda for Oberoi Rajvilas. Yeah. So I operated out of Jaipur, Rajasthan precisely. Brilliant experience again. Not a hotel management graduate, picked up from the beginning. And typically the biggest takeaway for me as a professional, as an HR leader, was, typically if you want to talk about guest centricity as a concept, as a competency, there cannot be a better sector than hospitality, and more specifically service sector. Yeah. Why? Unlike the manufacturing process, here you will not have a product life cycle. If your guest is happy with your services, with your quality of food, then you get the feedback right then and there. So the feedback, my dear friends, is instantaneous. Hence, everything that you do, irrespective of the fact whether you are the front of the house or the back of the house, everything revolves around guest centricity. Yeah, that you can apply in your customer centric approach in whatever you do. That was a phenomenal experience working for hospitality sector. The next one was Putney Computers, which subsequently got acquired by iGate, and iGate got acquired by Capgemini. So all my friends who chose to stay with iGate and Putney are now part of Capgemini. Of course, I'm talking about early 2000, during that time, or 2000, 2005, during that time, everybody was looking at IT services as a sector when you talk about HR or people practices. right? Services company. That's the time when I thought, I should be joining Patni Computers. When Patni Computer got acquired by iGate, that is the time when I chose to, exit out of Patni and, I joined some other sector. But the biggest takeaway, my dear friends, is time is money. And you cannot afford to have people on the bench. So resource utilization, if you genuinely want to learn, and because every resource got to be billable, the more people are engaged, the more people are deputed, allocated to a specific project, the more are the possibility of you getting better revenues. And hence, be it the dealing with the multiple aspiration of young minds, how do we provide career tracks? Some people are interested in individual performance or individual performer kind of a track. Some wanted people manager kind of a role. Yeah, some wanted subject matter expertise. How do we take care of people and their aspiration, yet manage performance, yet take care of their career aspiration? That was the biggest challenge. And in terms of learning, yeah, the various people processes, various people policies, how do we make sure that all our people policies that enable people to give their best? That was the toughest job. And anything and everything that we were doing, that was revolving around how do we engage, how do we make sure performance is not compromised, how do we make sure retention, we try and have maximum number of people retained with us. And these were some of the key learnings during my stint with Patni. Then my next assignment was with a UK based retail giant called Tesco, and my role was to handle the IT services wing of Tesco in Bangalore, a place called Whitefield. That's where we have the back office. It's called Tesco HSC. HSC stands for Hindustan Service Center. Now, what we used to do is all the shops across UK, in few places in Thailand, Malaysia, and in different other geographies, all the offices, the stores got to be maintained, and the IT support got to be extended from Bangalore office. And predominantly that was our role. And my role as head of HR for IT services was to ensure we hire the right number of people, right time. How do we retain them? How do we engage them? How do we make sure that they develop? And we build a pipeline of ready to move talent, high potential, ready to move talent. And of course, culture, policies, and other things that comes in between. That was the fundamental, ask from a HR leader, typically in a consumer internet, typically in a .com, typically in a retail kind of a business. And thoroughly enjoyed my stint of around 3 years there. And during this time, I was also fortunate to operate out of Korea, Seoul, to be specific, twice. And the biggest learning today, of course, it's we all see this and feel the services, but in a retail sector, I'm talking about 12, 13 years back, when you travel in the tubes, in Korea, in South Korea, specifically in Seoul city, then, all the barcodes of those essential items would be printed there. So while on the go, you can scan that, and you can also decide at what time you want your wine or meat or grocery to be delivered. And rest assured, during that time, it will be delivered. Yeah. So typically, we see this. This is no surprise, and this is no news for us right now in India. Of course, all the retail giants in India also are doing that right now. But I have seen that 12, 13 years back. Now, that gave me the reassurance that how a retail sector has transferred technology in the hands of customer. You don't need to, in winters, when it is -10, -11, you don't need to venture out. During Christmas season, your wine, grocery, everything will be delivered at your doorstep, and everything while on the go. You don't need to step into any of the departmental stores. So passing technology in the hands of customer, how brilliantly it was done was a great example of my stint, and that's my biggest learning or takeaway during my stint with Tesco. I'm saying roughly around 12, 13 years back. Then my first CHR assignment was with a company who went public after 17 years of their survival, 17 years of their operation in the Indian market, which is into information services. And I'm talking about Just Dial. Yeah. Understanding multiple stakeholders, managing multiple stakeholders was my biggest takeaway. Yeah. And why I'm saying this is precisely for the fact that the promoters are three brothers, and managing promoters along with rest of the leadership members and promoters who happen to be the brothers, there cannot be a better learning and challenging situation for an HR guy. So that's what I have learned. How do we manage the stakeholders? Yeah, in a specific sector which is into information services. And in India, that time, in yellow pages kind of a business, there were no competition, and the competition was only with Googles of this world. Yeah, everything and anything that you want, you got to dial 10 times 8, and through text message you would get the address detail, you would get the information. So from search to transact, probably that is where they have lost the race relatively. But I would always have tremendous respect for the company for whatever it has done in India, and the kind of tough situation that they have gone through, yet they have survived and they have excelled. Then my next assignment was with a Fortune 500 company called Fidelity National Financial, listed in New York Stock Exchange. And my role as CHRO was to take care of Indian operation. And subsequently, I was supposed to join the Florida business as CHRO. But then somehow, because of the US presidential election during that time, things and real estate market completely crashed. And that's where, things got delayed. But the biggest learning for me, friends, unlike India, where if you are keen to buy or invest in a property, there would be roughly around 5 to 10 people who would come with original looking document, and you are confused. You don't know whether your money is safe or not. But in the Western world, and more specifically in the US, each of the county would have the land record for about 70 years, 80 years. Yeah, what we call encumbrance certificate. So who was the owner? How did it pass from one generation to another? Everything, that documentation is available with each of the county. And the beauty is those land records are also digitized and privatized. It's not necessarily with county or escrow officers. It's already been sold. And Fidelity as a corporate, as an entity, had those digitized land records for about 70 years, 80 years. Now, our business model used to be, if you want to buy or invest your money in any of the property, be it residential or be it commercial establishment or plot for that matter, then Fidelity will give you a clear title insurance. What it means is, any complications, legal litigations you come across, the company will take care of all that expenses and you get back your money. I believe fantastic and brilliant example of how a traditional sector like real estate can be digitized, can be privatized. In India, I believe states like Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka are wanting to go that route. But yes, it will take years in India before we get into that stage. So brilliant. Now it's been 4 years, precisely 4 years since I joined Magic Bricks, and I'm the first CHRO hired at Magic Bricks. It belongs to, again, a 170-year-old group company, popularly called Bennett and Coleman, or Times Group of Times of India Group. Yeah. So typically, when you open a newspaper, you see matrimonial, you see real estate, you see jobs, you see entertainment, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Right. So typically, the realization a couple of decades back was, the future is of digital, and hence, cut to today, if you talk about CricBuzz, Ghana.com, Radio Mirchi, Times Internet, Times Job, Magic Bricks, each one of them are separate P&L, separate entities. Yeah. And thankfully, my business Magic Bricks is close to 14 years in its operation right now, and it's a profit-making entity. Year and a half back, we broke even, so it's making profits right now. And from that standpoint, phenomenal experience in terms of, again, the real estate sector, how everything, the technology been passed to the hands of customers. All of that learning was very, very good. So most of the stuff is in public domain, from culture transformation to having a robust performance management system to building a leadership pipeline through development centers and option programs. The experience, the kind of thing that we could put in place is enormous and very, very satisfying from that standpoint. Now, just like any other sector, till February, March, till mid of March, we were also super excited. By the time we started our new office in Bangalore, Manyata Tech Park, created new categories in Magic Bricks, and we were waiting for the new year to resume, the financial year from 1st of April to resume. That's when, friends, we got hit with this unprecedented situation, this COVID-19 situation. We were done with all our annual operating plan, but then that's when we got hit. And completely that changed the way we used to do business. Everybody was forced to follow the lockdown. And what it meant is, absolutely no business at all. Yeah. So this is again industry agnostic. During the first quarter of 2020, most of us, we have gone through very, very tough business challenges, specifically because of lockdown, because of this, pandemic. Now, let's talk about my key learning. Again, this is industry agnostic. Any sector, all the leadership members were focusing on three fundamental things. Yeah. Number one, how do we survive this pandemic? How do we stay afloat as a company? What we need to be doing in HR, in leadership, CXO member, to stay afloat, to survive this difficult time. Absolutely, when there is no business, but you have people, you have to pay their salaries, you have availed certain services, vendors are waiting for the payment. What we got to be doing, and again, numerous organizations identified their own way of cutting down the cost and managing to survive this phase. So first phase was all about survival. During that phase, we all have seen organizations have put a freeze on hiring. The performance, the promotion announcements were delayed. Organizations have gone through graded pay cut, temporary pay cut, no increments probably for 2020. I'm not talking about Magic Bricks, but in general, different companies have gone for different measures. And mind you, all of that was done with one single point agenda: how as a corporate we stay afloat, how as a corporate we survive this pandemic. Yeah. And the realization and the learning is, organizations who were playing that valuation game, that bubble has burst. Organizations who were cash rich found it relatively easier to manage this unprecedented time, specifically the first quarter or the second quarter. By end of second quarter, things were back to normal in certain sector. And mind you, this is when I said industry agnostic, first quarter was equally difficult for all. But having said that, certain sectors were severely impacted. For example, manufacturing, hospitality, travel, tourism industry have seen very, very difficult time. On the contrary, I also strongly believe any adverse situation brings in the best in organizations or creates many opportunities. Yeah. And the example is, look at education technology companies, look at grocery delivery companies, look at people like young people who got into YouTubing. Yeah. And I also thought of starting my own YouTube channel, Dr.HR, yeah, during this unprecedented time. So any unprecedented, any adverse situation also gives rise to phenomenal opportunity. Yeah, that's what we have seen. The second phase was all about how do we recover back the lost ground. During first quarter, April, May, June, when there were no business and organizations were bleeding, but they could not do much. Few organizations, they have innovated. They went super creative. For example, car manufacturing companies got into mask production. Yeah, these are the innovations. Or e-commerce players who were not into any kind of a grocery delivery got into grocery delivery. Yeah, these are some, and there are numerous such examples all around us. Why people had to do that? Because the first phase was all about staying afloat. The first phase was always about staying relevant and surviving. Number two was how do we recover back? Organizations innovated, reinvented, rebooted their strategy, their survival strategy, and they covered their lost ground through numerous innovations. Third phase is, the beginning of third quarter, we have seen what organizations got to be doing to again get into that excellence mode. Yeah. So how do we survive? To how do we recover back? To again, how do we go to that excellence phase? And organizations, thankfully, sectors like ours are into that third phase right now. And the situation in online real estate players like ours, Magic Brick, is even this is better than pre-COVID era right now. How? We will talk about how. Probably in metro cities, tier 1 cities, yeah, it is relatively stagnant, the same status quo. But the trend that we have seen is work from home or work from anywhere. Plenty of flexibility was given to people. That has fueled the necessity in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And I'm not talking only about residential, I'm talking about co-working spaces. And hence, we have seen tremendous business in this area. And this is even better than the pre-COVID era. Yeah. So these are the three phases, friends, I have seen. Now, as HR leader, I want you to pay attention to this point. Certain organization took tough call in the first phase of survival, and mind you, that involved laying off certain percentage of people, that involved going for graded pay cut. Why? Single point agenda. How do we stay afloat? How do we survive? And this is not a pleasant experience for anybody. But as an HR leader, these are the two key learnings that I have had, and I definitely want to share it with you. Number one, if retrenchment, if layoff is inevitable, by all means do that. And with right intent, if you go to people and talk to them, people understand the situation. But you cannot afford to demean the dignity of labor. Number one, if you have to ask certain people to go, do that, but do that respectfully. You cannot demean the dignity of labor. That's number one learning. And right intent, go ahead, communicate, in certain cases, over communicate, tell people they understand. Do not cut corners, no shortcut to this, and cannot afford to demean the dignity of labor. Organizations or leaders who took care of this are successful ones. The second trick, you cannot afford to compromise on the corporate values. Now, every organization would have certain value statement which defines, which forms the DNA, the basis of an organization culture. And you cannot compromise on those values, keeping in mind your short-term gain. If you do that, yeah, if you treat people in an inhuman manner, compromise on the corporate values, considering, hey, we all are going through difficult time, then you can never rebuild the culture. Yeah, and people would not trust you. Hence, my dear friends, two takeaways. Number one, cannot afford to demean dignity of labor. Number two, cannot afford to compromise on the corporate culture. the corporate values. If you do that, that's a recipe for disaster. Yeah. Organizations or leaders who took care of these 2 points, to my mind, are winners. Yeah. They found it relatively easier to manage the whole show. Number third learning, cash is king. The cash reserve that you have is king. No fun going for a full page jacket ad in leading newspapers talking about, hey, we are world's number one hospitality group or blah blah blah. But then in difficult time there is mass exodus that we have seen, inhuman treatment. I'm not saying they were not justified, probably justified, but did you strike a balance between these two? You would boast that your valuation is these many $1 billion, but in difficult time you would struggle to pay salaries to your employees. That doesn't go well with people, and hence the realization is cash is king. If you are having a good P&L balance, if you have cash reserve, those organizations found it relatively easier to manage and sail through the tough time, the unprecedented time. Fourth trend that I have seen, this pandemic has changed the mindset of the leadership members. When we are talking about work from home, it's not an alien concept. It was there as a policy even in multiple organizations, including ours. But when we were talking about work from home, the realization, the understanding was, hey, it makes a lot of sense for IT guys, tech guys. Yeah. But the pandemic, which has forced people to stay indoor, has allowed them to reboot, re-strategize their business. And trust me, irrespective of the department that we were in, everybody, when it comes to efficacy, everybody was found equally effective. Hence, the realization is the organizations of future will have more flexibility. Yeah, people say work from home is the new norm. I'm sure you would have come across statements like, this is the new normal. As a professional, I don't believe there is anything called new normal. Why? Because we have seen the Great Depression. Today it is COVID-19. Is this the end of this? No. Tomorrow there might be something else in the form of uncertainty, unprecedented time again. Yeah. Hence, there is nothing called new normal. What is new normal today? Organizations are going to evolve and have processes around this to manage it effectively. Yeah. Till the time you have a larger crisis again. But the new trend of, the current workplace trend is more flexibility. You call it work from home or work from anywhere. Friends, in a high performance driven organization culture, it doesn't matter where you are operating from. Even if you operate from the beautiful beaches of Goa, so long as you fulfill your target, so long as you establish that these are my net value addition to the company, organizations are going to be absolutely fine with that. What matters is what is your net value addition to the company, not necessarily how many hours of punch in or punch out you have. Yeah, and work from anywhere would be the flexible workplace culture we are going to see. That's a trend. Number two, I pray and hope that all of you should get roles of your choice in those specific sectors. But as a practitioner, I believe placements, more specifically campus activity. I'm not specifically talking about institutions like XLRI, which is the premium one. Yeah. When it comes to HR or management education, I'm talking about by and large across B schools, the campus activity would definitely diminish. Yeah. Or forget about campus, the number of jobs, the full-time jobs that will get created at least in the next 12 months would be slightly diminished. Yeah. Now, as I said, any difficult situation will also give rise to numerous other sectors, numerous other business entities during this time. Yeah, when there would be less number of full-time employment, it will give rise to a sector, parallel sector or parallel economy called gig economy. Yeah. And when I'm saying gig economy, not necessarily confined to blue collars. I'm talking about even white collar. Let's say, digital marketing expert. Let's say, merger and acquisition specialist. Let's say product management. Let's say UX UI designers. Yeah. Even in that category, we will find plenty of people, kind of available in gig economy with their services. My dear friends, globally, this gig economy is estimated at $4.5 trillion business. Yeah, huge. Cut to India, it's going to touch $450 billion in the next 18 months' time. The good news is, India already features amongst world's top 5 nations who are already using gig workers extensively. Yeah, after US and China, number 3 is India. Then comes your Mexico, Japan, and other countries. Yeah, this is here to stay. Why? The mindset in corporate. I'm talking about typically startups. Yeah, who would not have a long-term, fixed-term commitment. For them, the mindset is, hey, with this salary of a CXO, I can have 3 people hired. Yeah, and hence people who are already at a higher salary bracket, the tenured people, the seasoned people, professionals, they were prone to job losses and they are available in the market. Mind you, you can hire more number of people with that salary, but you cannot take out that years of experience from those people. And they are available in the market as gig. On the contrary, the learning organizations today and the average age of all new age companies that hovers around 30. Yeah, and with that, we also are talking about Gen Yers, typically born after 1995. Yeah, 2005. So typically 25 years of these are the new kids on the block. Their mindset is, I'm not married to one company. I'm a subject matter expert. I want flexibility. Yeah, and I don't mind going to 3-4 companies and render my service. So the gig economy is going to further gain momentum in India. Yeah, that's a trend I'm seeing. Yeah, critically, this too, work from home is here to stay, or work from anywhere is here to stay. Precisely, also there are numerous benefits, but for the easy understanding of student community, I call STOP, wherein S is for social distancing. The WHO report got to be believed. The virus is here to stay. So only way out for people like you and I is we need to find out ways of peacefully coexisting with the virus, at least till the time you and I get the vaccine. Yeah, and maintain social distance. Thankfully, work from anywhere or those work from home kind of flexibilities, workplace flexibilities allows you to maintain social distancing. You don't need to venture out. Yeah, and that's why I believe work from anywhere, work from home is further going to get momentum. That is the S in the STOP. T is for the travel time. It's a proven fact, irrespective of the city that you belong to. Typically, an average Indian worker spends around 25% of its time, productive time, while commuting. And if it's in cities like Bangalore, it's even more. Yeah. Now, that takes a toll on the overall efficacy of an individual. And hence, if it is work from home or work from anywhere, or finding out a place, co-working place nearby, then definitely it makes a lot of sense. And you can cut down on the commute time, and the productivity levels can definitely go high. And hence, these are the flexibilities different corporates are seriously thinking and are implementing. The challenge, my dear friends, is not necessarily everyone is blessed. They do not have the infrastructure facility, be it in the form of an exclusive office space, in their respective homes, or the kind of network, the internet bandwidth that we would need. Organizations are doing their bit in the form of introducing numerous policies and supporting with those infrastructure arrangement now. And I strongly, as a practitioner, believe it is here to stay and will further gain momentum. That's the future. Yeah, because this uncertainty is bound to happen. Today it is something, tomorrow it will be something else. Yeah. Number 3 in the STOP acronym is: S is for social distancing, T is for travel time, O is for office occupancy. Gone are those days where companies will boast about, hey, you know what, this is my swanky campus. We have seen the momentum because, I represent an online real estate sector. There is plenty of demand in co-working spaces right now. Why? Because it gives flexibility. What you need to do is have a pass which is applicable everywhere. You can log in from any of the co-working spaces based on which part of the city and where do you live, in that city. Those flexibilities corporates have made it a reality, and it's gaining further momentum. That's about office occupancy. There would be lesser demand in those office occupancy, and during tough time, organizations do not want to invest on real estate, have their own campuses, and block money. So absolutely, corporates would be identifying which are must to do activity, which are good to do activity. That's the wiser way of dealing with business requirement. And we are seeing the trend of people and organizations moving towards more of co-working spaces because of the flexibility, because of the other challenges. And of course it makes a lot of business sense for a corporate as well. Last one is P for pollution. When we all were following lockdown measures, less number of vehicles were plying, and that's why people were making comment from Jalandhar. In my lifetime, I have never seen the Himalayas. Now I can see the Himalayas, clear sky. And think of also the people who were asthmatic or young kids, old age people. For them, fantastic. By no means, I as a practitioner, I want economic activities to further resume, economic manufacturing processes to be there, but it also puts a big question in all of our mind. Can we peacefully coexist and take care of the environment also? Is that not sustainable? How do we strike a balance? These are some of the key learnings that I have had during this pandemic time. Now, before I close, and maybe another 5 minutes, and before I open the forum for Q&A, as an HR practitioner, there are 4 C's that I have come across. Those were my learning. Number 1, man is a social animal. We all talk about it, right? Very, very important for us to communicate. There were plenty of anxiety. Because of the job losses all around, people were scared. They had no clue for how long we will go for this work from home kind of a measure. How is business doing? Am I going to get impacted? What will happen if some of my family members, they catch this virus? Whether we have insurance as a company, and then can I get a bed? These were some of the curious questions in the minds of people. HR, or the leaders who took initiative and communicated, rather over communicated during certain time, they found it relatively easier to manage. So that curiosity you can actually kill by proactively reaching out to people, talking to them, finding about their well-being. That went a long way in reassuring people, about business, about the new norms of working, etc., etc. So communication is my first C that I have learned. Second C is always about connect. That goes along with communication, but second C is connect, right? How do we, being in HR, ensure that the service experience, for example, onboarding was happening, everything was happening virtually, but how do you ensure the people who are in Patna or in Bhubaneswar or in Kolkata or in Ahmedabad, everybody are getting the same seamless HR services in terms of onboarding experience, in terms of performance appraisal, in terms of performance feedback, employee engagement, all of that. So connecting was very, very important. Yeah. So virtually, of course, what we were doing is daily morning huddle, business meeting, weekly updates, and be it online tombola, or be it tying up with certain fitness companies, and having virtual fitness challenges, or also having virtual parties in the evening, weekly parties. You carry your food, we will carry our food, and at least we will have some good laugh, and then we can connect, we can find out the well-being of family. That also was required, though it sounds very funny, but that was the need of the hour. You're connecting with people, inquiring about their well-being. And randomly, business HR, being in HR, what my team they were doing, which has really gone well with people, is randomly pick up the phone and talk to people, find out how they are doing, whether they need any kind of a support, try and answer their anxiety related questions. That went in a long way. Third thing was all about coaching, counseling. Certain category of people, the mental stress during this time was all time high, and hence we had to tie up with numerous service providers, counseling services, who helped us out to manage those young minds during this crisis. Yeah, through them also we had to manage. Now the fourth one is about compassion. Compassion was very, very important. Certain category of people who lost their job, compassion is all about being empathetic. I'll try and give you an example. Oh, sad to hear you lost your job is an example of sympathy. People do not want sympathy. Empathy meaning I can feel probably what you are going through. So when you internalize, when you feel, when you become more compassionate, you're bound to walk an extra mile beyond the call of your duty. Example, if laying off is inevitable, what you are doing as a leader, what you have done as an organization, will determine the flight of an organization. For example, these many people are impacted, then in our case, the hiring team, the 12-member, 13-member talent acquisition team, were relatively, their job was little lesser because hiring activity was on freeze. Now, what we thought, these guys, let them help out those impacted 20, 30 people while in writing their profile, in uploading it in job site, in giving them HR intelligence in terms of who are the corporates hiring. Mind you, the learning also that I want you guys to take out of this discussion is talent would always be a winner. What it means is, even during this unprecedented times, the lockdown period, when hiring was on freeze for certain critical positions, for certain talent requirement, every organization had certain requirement. So talent, irrespective of the time that we go through, will always be a winner. But the question is, Udeshna, the question is Debashish, the question is Priyanka, why should anybody hire you? And who is your competition? And when we are talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0, where Klaus Schwab talks about how the fourth industrial revolution is all about 3D printing, about Internet of Things, and plenty of other stuff. For HR, the whole world is connected right now. So when you pass out, you are not necessarily competing with IIMs, MDI, FMS, and other institutions. You are competing with everybody who is going to pass out from across the globe. Your competition hence is in Australia, in the US, in the UK, everywhere, right? Now, the point is, why should anybody hire you? What is your unique value proposition? What did you do in terms of acquiring a new skill? Yeah. What is your personal branding and networking ability? Can you really think on your feet? What's your emotional question? What's your design thinking approach? How good you are in terms of your problem solving approach? how good you are in predictive modeling. Yeah, these are the stuff, the unwritten competencies that we have seen. Yeah, and hence the C, the compassion, and hence, understanding the fact that talent would always be a winner and there would always be requirement, but why should anybody hire you? What is that, your unique value proposition? You need to ask that tough question to yourself and find out avenues of actually, building and getting onto that stage, so that you become risk averse. Irrespective of the time you go, well, you pass through, you are better positioned to get noticed by corporates. That's very, very important. Last C is about catharsis. CATHARASIS. Catharsis is the underlying principle here is suppressing the point of view or the opinions of people is not good for mental health. Hence, allowing people to speak their mind is good. Yeah. And had to kind of handhold business managers and got to sensitize them. Of course, the people who go through difficult time, at least what they deserve is a patient hearing. You don't need to be defensive, you don't need to react, but give them a patient hearing. Let them speak their mind. That's good to control or manage the stress levels of people and manage mental health of people. These were few of my quick learning during this unprecedented time, and I have also explained the key takeaways in all those sectors that I have gone through and the workplace trends. And I hope with that, I'll take a pause. I'll open this live chat for Q&A. And I hope last 45 to 50 minutes were useful. And there were few takeaways for all my student friends of XLRI. Yeah, let me know how did you like the session, and let me also know if you have any curious question. Over to you guys. In the meantime, let me also tell you, after having 23 years of practicing HR across sectors, during this unprecedented time, I also thought, okay, let me also rediscover. And I said, it is meaningless to say I have got 23 years of experience if I'm not able to give back to the budding, my learnings to the budding managers like you. And with that intent, I created almost 3 months back, my own YouTube channel called Dr.HR. So at 46, if I can get into YouTubing, definitely, and try and create some sort of networking and sharing, then definitely you guys can do better than that. Yeah. So whenever you get some free time, I would request you to go through my channel, Dr.HR, and do not also forget to subscribe to Dr.HR and let me know how you're finding the content. Yes, guys, any questions? Fantastic. Namrata Mahapatra is asking a question. In your rich, diverse experience, where did you find it the most challenging and complex to drive and manage strategic HR interventions? It'll be wonderful to learn about the most challenging story. Difficult question, Namrata, to answer. It's like, hey, tell me which part of your body is most important. Each of the sector has its own unique way of dealing with people issues. But thoroughly, I enjoyed dealing with trade unions. I enjoyed managing people, managing young minds. Consumer internet is a brilliant sector to be in. So be it Tesco, the .com business, or be it specifically Just Dial or my current organization, the challenges are immense, the learnings are immense. And similarly, working for Denso, the manufacturing concepts, if you want to learn, as I said, TPM, TQM, that was brilliant. So uniquely, every sector, I'm glad, I'm fortunate, God has been very kind. I have not repeated any one sector, but this last 7-8 assignments that I took, They were pretty unique in terms of learning, but ultimately for an HR guy, Namrata, overall accountability remains around how do we hire best of the talent, how do we make them engaged and retain them, what it takes to take care of their developmental aspirations and provide them a career track. Besides that, of course, organization culture and other things that comes in the way. Maybe the treatment in sectors are slightly different, but by and large, overall accountability of an HR leader or CHRO revolves around those broad themes. I hope I have answered your question, Namrata. Thank you, Priyanka, for subscribing to Dr. HR. I hope rest of the 50 friends from XLRI also they do that. And yeah, if you like this, by all means, please go ahead and do that. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm glad, Santosh, you're finding it. You found the session insightful. Could you give us a tip and doubt about how to say no during professional meetings? More importantly, how to put it across mildly yet effective. Yeah, there are aggressive ways of doing certain things, yeah, which I would not recommend, but there are assertive ways. Yeah, politely, you cannot afford to be rude. Politely say that probably your thought process, your approach is not in sync with what is expected, and hence probably you would not be keen to take it ahead. We can also try and create a hope that in future some other project comes up. Definitely, I would be excited, but at this given point in time, what I had to offer, what my mindset is, that's not in sync with the expectation, and hence I would not want to be part of this project for the time being. Is a better way. You are assertive, at the same time you are not demeaning anyone. You're trying to put across your point of view and saying that, hey, I'm not against this, but for the time being I'm not interested. In future, if something comes up which is in line with my thought process, definitely no, I will consider. Which type of leadership are successful in present time is the question Sachin is asking. For me, difficult to answer. Again, there is no set pattern. Yeah, I would say contingency approach based on situation. If you can mold, if you can adapt, that's all about resilience. It's all about agility, and hence adaptability is very, very important. And a contingency approach or contingent leaders or situation leadership is something which I believe is more successful, because you will find it easier to adapt, and that's my preferred style also, Sachin. Excuse me. Prithviraj is asking, okay, how do you define broke even? Okay, when you are financially stable, that boosts up your confidence. Yeah, you can afford to make a little more mistake. You can afford to probably innovate, take risk, and yet try and take care of people to the best of the possible manner. But if you have cost pressures, if you are not a profit making entity, if you have only depended heavily on the valuation game, and during this crisis like this, it exposes you, and hence I say predominantly it makes you more comfort, it makes you more risk averse. Sorry. In the interest of time, I'll take one last question, and I'm glad how has Magic Bricks ensured employee confidence in recent time. We have reversed our graded pay cut related decision. We have announced our promotions. We have announced our annual increments for last year. And these are some of the symptoms. And we have again started hiring. These are some of the symptoms that the organization is on a growth trajectory. And sitting on healthy cash reserve also means that people expect you to take care of those routine tasks, which is in their best interest, be it performance incentive, be it reward recognition, be it annual increment. So all of that we have done, and that will further boost of confidence. Yeah. So I think these are some of the questions. And Himanshu is asking, how do you deal with failures? Any kind of a failure is a great learning lesson for an individual or for an organization. Allowing people to make mistake and not reprimanding for their mistakes first time is a great strategy. I strongly believe in this, Himanshu. So to what extent, as an organization, you allow, as a leader, you allow your team to commit mistake? Because if you don't allow them to commit mistake, you're not allowing them to go creative way, or you don't allow them to innovate. Yeah. So allow people, and then any failure is a great learning experience that tells you what not to do. Yeah. And that is how I personally would like to take failures. So with that, friends, we come to today's conclusion. The session concludes, and I genuinely appreciate your time, your patience on a Saturday evening. Thank you so very much. I thoroughly enjoyed interacting with you and some of the brilliant questions that you guys have asked. Thank you so very much. Stay safe. All the best. And maybe, sometime soon again, we will catch up. Take care, guys. All the best. And do not forget to subscribe to Dr. HR. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.